Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie, and today we're going to be talking about the different sort of cutting mechanics and getting it right with some live demonstrations. So I've got a couple of bottles and cartons, and that should give you a practical idea of what it all look like and how it should end up. So I hope you enjoy. Now, please forgive the weather. This is Britain's equivalent of a really bright sunny day. Overcast. You can see better than in the winter, and it's still raining. So anyway, we'll start with really simple stuff. Pretty much anyone can do what's called fendente or Oberhau, as you'd call it in historical European martial arts, or just basically a simple cut from your dominant side, in my case the right, going and cleaving through. Now it's important to ensure your edge alignment is good, so this isn't really something I can say directly or teach you in words. That's something that you basically just have to practice yourself. With enough cuts and practice, you'll get there eventually. But what I do when I'm doing that simple cut is I'm starting in my ready position. I could, for example, have my sword on the shoulder. It could be, or in this case I've got my machete. I could have it above me. I could even have it down to the side. So, I don't know if you can see it from here, so I'll demonstrate here. Basically in here, it's called a long tail. So I can go up and around, or I can just go up, straight up. I'm going to do a downwards cut. And from here, get ready. I've got it basically feet shoulder width apart. And from there, I'm sort of braced with my opposite leg forward. So I'm right-handed on my right, so I've got my left leg forward. I can, of course, since I'm practicing test cutting, I can measure up. I was actually a bit close. There we are, repositioned good again. Okay, so, got myself left leg forward, right leg back. The front foot is pointing straight at the target. Back leg is sort of off at a diagonal angle. I can then measure to how far I'll cut. Now, I don't want to just do this and just bring the arm forward. I want to be able to put the shoulders, the hips and the power of the body with a walking movement, what we call passing step, by basically putting this back foot, my right leg, in front as I cut. So that swaps me over from the left pointing forwards, so my shoulder, my hip and my knee on my left are all pointing at the target, and then by the time I've finished the cut I should have my right shoulder, hip and leg pointing at the target. So then what should happen is this. That wasn't the best cut I've done, but I'll give you a front angle of what should be happening, and this should give a better perspective as well. So same as before, my left is currently pointing at the target. I'm going to swap around and get the cut done. Now, let's just make sure that okay, so cut it from here. So I'll actually be back to here. I was a bit too close, like last time. So, I go again, and 3, 2, 1. I noticed one of the things I did there was, as I'd done the cut, I also brought it back onto the other shoulder into the ready position. This is good to prepare you in something like an actual sort of, well, sparring match or a fight, God forbid. But it also means, if the target doesn't fall off, if you're just doing backyard cutting, and let's say this was still here, I have done it before and I've been able to prepare on the other shoulder and then deliver a second or third and fourth cut immediately afterwards, rather than resetting, going back and then starting from the beginning. It's much more fun to do it all at once, cleave it to bits. Now this time I'm going to do it from my left, my non-dominant side. It's the same type of cut, again called the sort of fendente or Oberhau, or we can just call it a simple hewing cut, whatever you like. But I'm just going to show it again, but this time from my non-dominant side, my left side, and I've also got the camera positioning lower, so hopefully you can see the sort of footwork I'm employing much better. So I'll just show you one sort of demonstration before I do the actual cut. So it should be, here it is, my right is pointing at the target, I should then step, and then I'll have my left pointing at it. And I should end up cutting through, out the other side, and then return onto the next ready position. And who knows, maybe I might get a second cut in if this hasn't fallen off. We'll see. So, 3, 2, 1. Yes, I did. And that, thank God above that, was precisely what I'd hoped for. The ability to show a double cut. So, as you saw, like I told you in the last instance, because I was able to get my sword, or in this case my machete, onto the shoulder in the ready position, when I noticed the target hadn't completely fallen off the stand, I had the opportunity to deliver another cut, which was just basically the one I'd showed you at first, but after another cut. Now this will be the final type of this one particular cut, because I'll be able to show you the others later, but this just shows one more way of doing the same sort of cut type, but from a different starting position. So rather than starting more medium around my shoulders, like I showed before, this time I'm starting from up high. This is called sort of Vomtag from the roof, or called the Falcon Guard, whatever you want to call it. I'm starting up high, and then the same sort of thing again. I'm going to cut down in that diagonal angle. So, 3, 2, 1. That'll do. Right, so this time I'm going to do a cut from below. Now this is called the Unterhau, I think it's called, and also the Sotani cut. Basically, just going from below upwards. But the concept's the same, so I'm starting, because this time I'm starting on my non-dominant side. I'm in a what's called long tail on my left. I've got my right side pointing at the target. Once I've done that step, I'll have my left side pointing at the target. And who knows, I might be able to do a second cut. We'll see, just like the last time I said that, and it went very well. Oh, the sun's come out, lovely. So, here we are. Let's just test. That should do it. So, 3, 2, 1. Well, I figured I could get another cut out of this bottle, carton rather. Now this time, rather than using the main edge, I will start on my dominant side, the right, in the same sort of position, the long tail, but rather than cutting with the main edge, the true edge, front edge, long edge, people call it various things, but it's the same stuff. I will instead be using the double edge that I've put on this particular one, but on most European swords is a standard feature, and then I shall try to do a sort of a back cut like this, and then hopefully, if I've done the edge well enough, bearing in mind this was from the factory and I just resharpened it, this is something I put on myself, might not work, but let's have a look. Here we are, and 3, 2, 1, I hope this works. Yes it did! So, for the purpose of this particular exercise, I'm going to do what is called a mezzani or a mittelhau, or basically a sort of a middle cut. Now again, hello bird, I'm going to use basically my non-dominant side because it's going to work for this, and most especially I'm going to be focusing on a draw cut. Now the difference is you've got a chopping cut, which is what you've mostly seen before, which is I'm extending the sword out a bit like casting a fishing rod, and that sort of action adds heft to the chop, and I'm cutting with the last half of the blade or even the last third of the blade, and it ends up giving that sort of inertia, that force to chop the target apart. This time, because I'm going to be so close, and I'll give it more realistic feel by cutting from under this steel buckler I've got, and what I'm aiming to do is, rather than doing that proper sort of chop, which would be out here, and notice I'm covering my hands with a shield, that's an important point on using them properly. Instead, because I'm going to be quite close, and to show what a draw cut is like, I'll be starting actually fairly close to the hilt, but I can also start closer to the tip. But the main point is, rather than focusing on this speed, well, the speed is important as well, rather than focusing on this contact and chop, I'll actually be focusing on the slice. Now with a draw cut, it's really important you have the edge especially sharp, and I hope mine's going to be good enough for today. If it's not as sharp, you can get away with worse cuts when you're doing the actual sort of, you know, the normal chops and things, especially if you're putting a lot of force But with draw cuts like I'm going to show now, the edge really does need to be very sharp, or else it's just not going to work and you'll push the target away. So here we are. I'm going to cover it under my shield, and then going to just raise the shield slightly, still covering my hand, and then allow that draw cut to slice out. And I'll be basically bringing my arm across so it allows that slice. So 3, 2, 1. Now just quickly, this should show actually that I didn't do it quite properly, and you'll see there are slice marks across here, and there was a cut done. But really it was fairly surface, it basically extended to about here, a few inches across, whereas really, on a soft target like these cartons, I should have split the entire thing open. Now for this cut, I'm doing another Mazzani. In fact, I'll do it from the dominant side since you haven't seen that yet. Now, to make things interesting when you're doing test cutting, and to learn more while doing so, rather than just do a straight offense every time, start from some sort of defense. So one of the basic ones you can do, apart from, you can do this, where you're sloping the blade to basically catch any weapon coming your way. You can also have it upright, do stuff like this. Let's say someone thrusts, or someone cuts, that sort of thing. So I shall start from here, rather than a nice attacking position. I'll actually start as if I've just defended, and then I will deliver a cut from there. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. That'll do. Now I know I said this would be the last cut I show from above, but for the benefit of you who are using things like cutlasses, sabres and whatnot, you can still do cuts with passing steps, walking forward as you cut, but when you're using something that starts point forward, like a rapier, sabre, all sorts of things like that, there is another way in which you can cut, or perhaps with a medieval sword, but it's not the best technique because your arm can get cut off. Notice these hands and fingers exposed to any killing blow, but basically you can actually deliver a cut from these sorts of positions by just taking a sort of shuffle step, which is where I step the same foot, so I've got my dominant right foot forward, I extend it out, leaving this left leg still where it is, and then retract back again, so I'm still shoulder width apart, but basically advanced and retracted from the target. And I can use that to add a bit of power to the cut, so rather than just standing still and going chop, which is bad technique, I can start a little bit further back, add a cut, back into a nice comfortable position. So I'll show you that now. So, 3, 2, 1. Last but not least, let's talk about usage with shields. Yes, there are ways in which the weapon and the shield can be used separately, and they can also be used in what I keep calling tight action, where basically they all move together and you're constantly covering your hand with the shield. Now, just for the benefit of yourselves, I'll show you one cut, which shall be, what shall I do? Mazzani cut from the right, and then perhaps, if there's anything left, I shall finish up with a, what's called Sultani or upcut from the left. So, you'll see that I won't just go on all of this, not defending myself because that's bad technique. I'll be trying to keep the shield around roughly in front of me the whole time. So, 3, 2, 1. Ah! That was good. So that's all for today. Feel free to check out other videos regarding test cutting. I haven't done lessons in them, but I showed some things, and different weapons as well. If you want a review on the Latin machete that I used in most of the test cutting today, I have got a video of that. I'll link in the end screen somewhere for you, and that can give you further information on that. But I hope that you enjoyed these lessons and learnt a lot and got a bit of an idea of things to try and stuff to do. So see you the next time. Goodbye.